good afternoon, good evening, wherever you happen to be out in the world. It's been a little while, so hey everybody, how's it going? I hope everybody's doing great. I've been super busy behind the scenes, which is why I've not been very active on the YouTubes, but it's been good things. I know Teresa will be happy to hear this. I've been writing. Quite a bit actually. So I've been writing. I've been working on. I've been writing like literature, but also I've been writing a song. Like, I even have orchestral parts in there. I'm having fun with it. So, been busy there, and I've got like 6 videos in the can, and they're topical, but they aren't. How can I put it? Like, not news story coverage. It's more just stuff I've noticed and comments on the overall state of things. So there's really no like push to rush them. Better to be done than perfect, but I'd like to get it as close to my vision as possible. But that's what I've been up to. And today, because Wheel of Time has utterly pooped the can, crapped the bed, pulled an amber turd, we're going to talk about some of the characters and what Jordan envisioned for them, and whether or not Amazon, honored that vision at all in any way, shape, or form. But before we get to that, hello, good morning, Miss Martin Muses, Teresa. How are you this lovely day?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm sitting up here with a cup of Snickers coffee.
Oh my.
And yeah,
Yeah,
it's
which you said that didn't exist.
I know you were vindicated, Steve, because he made fun of me. He's
Yes.
like, "What are you gonna do? Have a Snickers one?" And I went, "Oh my gosh, I found it at the store." So yes, I mean, it's the true story, and I love it.
And once again, Stieg was right.
Steve was right. Always listen to the Viking. He's the one that got me mostly monetized, because he was the one that's like, do this, and by the end of the summer, and sure enough, yeah. So listen, he observes and knows. But no, I'm having a good time, relatively speaking, with just lots of stuff on the YouTubes and lots of swimming, and I'm really excited about the beginning of fall because I gonna start my Halloween stuff and Frankenstein, all that good things, all those good things, right?
All good things. So you a big Halloween fan then, Teresa?
Somewhat. I'm one of those. I celebrate All Saints Day more than that.
Yes.
But I will watch horror movies and do that part of it during October. It's fun.
Fair. Now I have to ask you, what is your fall flavor? Is it pumpkin? Is it apple, or is it something else?
Pumpkin all the way.
No, it's apple.
Oh no,
You're
it's
doing it wrong. All right. Well, I'm glad. Thank you so much for coming today. I know life is crazy for everybody. So, but we do happen, speaking of the Viking, who seems to know more than he should, we are joined also by the wonderfully sarcastic, sardonic Steve. How you doing? How's the first day of fall treating you?
I didn't know it was the first day of fall.
Yep.
But the leaves are starting to fall off the trees a bit, but it's still warm. We're getting more rain though.
Well, that's good, right?
Yeah, fall is my favorite season, so yeah.
Oh.
And
So
we
you're
had
not
northern lights too early this year.
I'm so jealous. I'm too
It's
far.
just
I'm too far
it's just
south
a smear
now.
in the sky.
Shush. You shush. You know that's not true.
That's on my bucket list, for crying out loud.
A smear in the sky?
Yes, it is.
I miss the Aurora Borealis so much. It makes me sad. I miss it.
Grown people cry the first time they've seen it.
It is pretty breathtaking. I'm not gonna lie. I do miss it. I was very spoiled living up north. But when you can't see it anymore, Stieg, you'll love it more. I promise.
Maybe. It's like Pamela Anderson on Baywatch. She's gone.
No, she's not. She's still there. You can go back and reminisce.
Yeah.
But other than that, what have you been up to? How have you been? What's going on?
Lots of reading and watching a lot of retro movies.
Oh.
And I have stocked up on horror movies for Halloween. Halloween is not a big thing up here in Norway at all, but I use
Which
it
is
as
surprising to me.
Well, no. Anyway, so
No.
I've been stacking up on horror movies ready for October to start. So hopefully that's going to be fun.
Interesting.
Oh, got a member.
Yep, I see that.
Yeah. I was going to say, wow.
Thank you, Cal G, who's been a member for 16 months. Hey, what's good, fam? How's life been treating you? Life has been life. Ups, downs, knocks, stepping stones, all of the above. But I've been keeping busy. I promise I have some stuff ready and waiting for you. It should be done soon. Like I said, it's not news topical stuff. It's not like even though I will be doing an opinion on Expendables 4 because I love the Expendables movies and I don't care. I love them. They are fun, outrageous, action packed, and I love that kind of stuff. I love action films. So I'm gonna be going and seeing Expendables 4 with a girlfriend and her boyfriend. She doesn't actually want to go see Expendables 4, but he does, and so she wants me to come with. And she's like, "I'll pay for your ticket," and I'm like, "Game, I'm there." So I'm gonna go third wheel, Expendables 4, and I have zero guilt over it because she's the one that asked. So it's gonna be great.
Imagine if you had a member called Barry. You'd have a member
word.
Barry on your channel.
Yeah, I have a member Barry. I think I do actually have a member Barry. It's not Barry Allen though. Unfortunately, no Flash, but that's okay. Calgy, it's great to see you. We will do a member stream very soon, I promise. Thank you so much for the love and support. I'm glad to be back, Cybot. Since we're in the chat, we'll throw some love at the chat. Hello, chat. It's great to see you. I'm happy to be back as well, Cybot. It has been a while. Like I said, lots of stuff going on in real life. It's good though. It's what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and all the good stuff you work on hopefully pays off, right? That's how you gotta look at it.
Basically, what
Miss Martin's
doesn't kill you makes you disabled.
Not always. Hey, Robert. What's going on, Robert Habib? It's great to see you. Rocky the Black Dragon. What is up? Yes, there's 38 days till Halloween. Yes, indeed. And it is the first day of autumn, officially. Autumnal equinox was at like 1:50 a.m. Central Time. So, starting on the Halloweens. I gotcha. 100 days till retribution. Ooh. Chrysanth, boop! How's it going? Thank you so much. I'm happy to see you too. Boop, back. Wonderful, wonderful. I'm so happy to see everybody. Thank you for stopping by. We are gonna get into this. So, as some of you know, Amazon is doing this thing with this show called Wheel of Time. At least they called it Wheel of Time, but they did not in any way, shape, or form, in my humble opinion, honor the source material at all. Like, if any of you have seen, if you've seen season 2, any of it, I'll be doing I'm going to do I'm going to be doing a half and half review. Stieg, I don't know if you know this, but essentially they've turned the source and the all of this into elemental magic. So
Well, the
They get-
source branches out to elemental disciplines.
yeah, but no. Literally they get their power source from the trees, from the ground, from the earth.
Yeah, that's not how it works at all.
These
The
elemental
source
connections
in
to the source.
yeah, the source is more like the force in Star Wars, really.
Really, it is.
But you use it to manipulate elements. So
yeah,
some people are stronger with this and that element.
Yeah, no, they flipped it around. Now the source goes through the element to the weaver.
Yeah, that's not
I
how
know.
it works.
I know. I actually screamed at my television. I was so angry. I was so upset.
Well, they basically just went from the fairly unique Wheel of Time system to your run-of-the-mill fantasy role-playing game.
Yeah. It's they have no original. They can't conceive of a magic system that isn't based on elements. They can't conceive of it being okay. So the source comes through the weaver, and the weaver can manipulate a specific element. That to them makes no sense. So instead, they made it that the source comes through the element to the weaver, which is why the weaver can manipulate that element.
Yeah, that's not how it works whatsoever.
I am fully aware, but that is what Amazon did. And I don't know if it's because they think their audience is stupid, or
it's because the audience is dumber than the writers. Usually, how it works.
That just blows my mind though, because they don't even need to do that, because they could make it very much just like Star Wars was originally. It's just like the Force, whatever. You know what I mean? And I don't mean whatever, but it's like you don't need to explain that much, let alone change it.
Yeah, I mean, Robert Jordan spent a shitload of time coming up with the magic system to make it make sense.
Yep.
So they just threw it out the window with most everything else.
Pretty much, they don't care. They here is the thing, as I'm sure most people watching this can imagine, Amazon does not care about the specifics. The details. They don't understand how fantasy works. The reason, and I've said this before many times, but the reason that fantasy is so that fantasy has all these details and world building is so important is because it's the details that separate out your different IP. Imagine, if you will, Lord of the Rings has dragons. So we'll say the Hobbit has dragons, the Hobbit has trolls, the Hobbit has goblins, the Hobbit has elves. Well, there are a myriad of fantasy IPs that have dragons, goblins, trolls, elves, princesses, kings, knights. Those are considered fantasy tropes, fantasy character tropes, or fantasy race tropes for a reason, because they appear in several fantasies. Right? Now, hobbits are exclusive to Lord of the Rings. Dwarves are not. So you see dwarves in many different fantasy IPs, but Tolkien dwarves are very different from D&D dwarves. Not horrifically different, but there are definite degrees of separation between them. That's what I was looking for. Okay,
The rule when it comes to fantasy and fiction is that the world the story takes place in functions as our world, except when explained otherwise.
Yep.
So, the laws of physics and everything like that, humans aging to a certain extent, you know,
Yep.
and all that stuff is already there unless the writers start saying, yeah, but these people over there, they can live for 500 years. So then
Yep.
the reader knows, okay, there's something special about that.
Exactly, like the Dunedain.
And magic.
Yes, this magic system is so important. Like how it is structured, how it is utilized, how it is portrayed. Like it's incredibly important because those details matter. And when you have a corporation that doesn't care about those details, everything's going to look the same. It's why Rings of Power and Wheel of Time look like they are taking place in the same universe.
Well, what tends to happen, I've noticed, when they claim to adapt something, all they're really doing is that they're getting an IP that comes with an inbuilt audience at the ready, but they tend to just use that IP and the world the story takes place in and the character names and all that. They tend to just use it as a sandbox to tell their own stuff.
Because they don't have enough faith in themselves to tell their own stories. So, in their own world. So they hijack someone else's IP and shove their story into it and then wonder why their IP fails. Yeah, it's because that isn't what this is supposed to be. This isn't your story. I'm sick of the self-inserts. I'm sick of this is the novel Tolkien never wrote. We're going to write it for him mentality. Like, how about you just trust that the author knew what they were doing? Because quite frankly, especially with Gareth, Teresa, have you met Gareth yet?
Yes, I have actually. Okay. Not too much with him, but
I was going to say briefly. He is my favorite character. I've told this to Steve many times. My favorite character in the entire series is Gareth, and they have royally jacked him up. And I don't know how they're going to write themselves out of this corner because his bond, like, he is critical at the end of this series. I have no idea. This show just needs to get flat out canceled at this point.
Have you read all the books so far?
Yes.
Okay. Well, shit, I can't spoil anyway. But
speaking codes of Teresa.
It's like the writers are playing Skyrim with a pencil.
That is a very apt description. That is so, and it's so like, and here's the craziest part. It's so easy to not have one-dimensional characters in this show, in this series, because they're not one-dimensional in the books. And if they would have just stuck with what was there's plenty of girl power moments. There's plenty of female empowerment. There's plenty of, females stepping up and handling themselves and protecting others and being strong. But
they
couldn't
almost 50-50.
Yeah, it's literally one of the most egalitarian IPs I've ever read. And they couldn't wait for that. They had to shove something from book 2 into season 1 when they're like, she's the most powerful we've seen in 1,000 generations. Why couldn't that, there was the problem with that line and where it was delivered is we have not seen anything to corroborate that at this point. It's not till later in season 1 that she actually delivers anything by stealing something from Rand. Teresa, I'm trying so hard not to spoil this.
Oh no, it's okay. It's okay. And I can turn off my ears if you want me. If
Brandon Sanderson called it out too.
Yeah, he did. And it's just like, I will say this. The thing that they stole from Rand in season 1, there is a reason it had to be Rand that did it. So not only have they written themselves into a corner with Gareth, they have also written themselves into a corner with Rand. And because you've read book 1, Teresa, you know that they know 2 things definitely about the Dragon Reborn. That he is in this cycle, and that he's a man. He's a boy, he's a man, like he is male.
Oh,
Like,
yes.
It
those
even
are
says
the
so in the
Yes.
prophecies. He
Yes.
was born, blah blah blah.
Yeah, well, the
Yes.
second you said that they stole something from Rand, I'm like, whoa, 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 because Rand is, as we know, the Dragon Reborn. That was a great reveal of the first one.
Yes.
And I have heard whisperings from things around that they're trying to diminish Rand. And I'm like,
quite a bit.
that's
That's
'cause so
exactly
my
what they did
whole
with Luke
thing-
Skywalker.
I was
Yes.
about ready to say, yeah, that's like doing it to Luke Skywalker. And then I'm like, oh, wait, they did.
They
Yeah.
did. And well, they try. For those of us who just ignore everything Disney Star Wars, Luke is still Luke from Return of the Jedi for me.
Mhm.
There is no Jake Skywalker for me. But I will say, so they stole more than one thing from Rand, but there is a specific event that happens in the books. Steve knows what I'm talking about. And when you get there, you'll understand why it was so important that Rand be the one who performs this deed. But they've also, as I said, like, this is from a video years ago. In the very first, 30 seconds of the first episode of Wheel of Time, they utterly destroy Jordan's world completely. The IP gets shattered because it's a voiceover of Rosamund Pike, whom they cast as Moiraine. And she's saying, we don't know if it's a boy or a girl. Like, that one line utterly obliterates everything Jordan wrote.
Yeah.
And later in the series, they're like, well, maybe the Dragon Reborn is more than one of them.
Oh.
The Dragon Reborn in pieces.
Yeah.
The Dragons Reborn. Well, and here's a little bit of my thesis, because you know how they don't like not only old white men, but when I did my biography of Robert Jordan, he actually was a very devout high church Episcopalian. And so he's also an old white Christian man who's dead and who can now not speak for himself or his work. Mm-hmm. This doesn't surprise me one little bit.
Mm-hmm.
They've got to destroy everything beautiful. Everything that inspires. Because
beauty is the antithesis of what they are trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so angry. I'm so angry.
Well, talk about a wasted opportunity, because I knew enough about Wheel of Time to know that it was like the Holy Grail. It was like the American Tolkien, if you will, even though you can't truly compare fantasy authors like that to each other. And the idea of them doing a series, a mini series of it, which is the perfect medium for a book like this, they should have been printing money. Yep. All they had to do is, but we all know that their goal is not to adapt. Their goal is to destroy, which is really ridiculous. But it's like this could have been as big as Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. All they had to do was do it straight.
If they had listened to Peter Jackson, who said, we don't want to put our message in there, we want to make sure it's Tolkien's story and Tolkien's message, they would have been printing money hand over fist.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't do that because they think they're smarter than Robert Jordan. And they're not.
Well, the Jordan being Americans, Tolkien.
Hello, Sir Booksay. Sorry.
It's Jordan surpasses Tolkien in the amount of lore, because Tolkien doesn't flesh out many of the countries. It's mostly Gondor and the Shire that gets fleshed out, right? Jordan fleshes out all of them and adds a culture to all of them, including what they wear.
I'd say Tolkien did that, though.
Well,
not with that many.
Mm.
There's way more different peoples in the Wheel of Time than there is in Tolkien.
Yeah, I think a better comparison would be Jordan versus Martin, because Martin has more widespread, kind of like Jordan, the world building and whatnot, but Martin has not finished his series, so I guess that's not a fair comparison
Well,
either.
my opinion is you can't truly compare any of them.
Technically, Jordan didn't, but Jordan died. He didn't just stop writing. He died.
Yeah. And he allowed for it to be completed by somebody else.
Sanderson got 6,000 pages of notes, I think, and I think the final bit in the final chapter, the ending itself, is written by Jordan.
That would make sense. Yeah.
Well, and this is what I found out when I was doing my biography on my channel for it too, is not only were there written notes, but even as he's lying on his deathbed, he was dictating to his wife. It's like, okay, this scene's going to happen like this. This scene's going to happen like that. Yeah. I mean, I didn't want to bring up this can of worms because I have a pretty strong feeling about trying to compare apples to oranges. You just can't. But I guess what I tried to say, like the American Tolkien, meaning that the accomplishment of what Tolkien did for kind of his English stuff was comparable to what Robert Jordan did, and as far as it being pretty much perfect. And anything that I've heard that isn't has been some people that maybe it was some of the things with Sanderson, some of the writing there, which was inevitable because it wasn't pure Jordan, but just wanted to throw that out there because I actually get irritated with the wars that you'll see. I'm not talking about here. I'm just saying out on the Twitter sphere is like, this is better than that. This is better than that. And it's like, listen, Tolkien was doing one specific thing in a very different era. Jordan was doing something very different in a different era. So as was Martin. But I think that their accomplishments obviously are laudable because there's a reason why they're so popular all over the world. And Jordan, I've always had him up there intellectually, and the only stuff I've actually read by him until I finally started reading The Wheel of Time was his Conan adaptations, which were really good, just amazing. So it was just time that was stopping me from reading these books.
Ironically.
Yeah, but on as far as these adaptations go, I mean, I may sound like I'm contradicting myself when I say that that they could have been printing money, they could have been doing all this. They're not completely stupid. They know this. They know everything we've said. I honestly think that there is something a little more insidious going on, is that they want to transform these books into their images as a form of iconoclasm or whatever. And because this generation is so TikTok, so visual and all that they are going to, this is going to be the version that they might know. And that's why I tell people, go out and buy the books before they do the digital book burning.
Oh, the target audience can barely read anyway. Just look at Twitter, when they're commenting. But it's, I think it's what Teresa said in part. I think the other thing is they have a bunch of people with their political leanings around them. So they're being cheered on. This is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So it's it's altering stuff, but I think it's also activism happening.
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
The people, the honchos high up and all that stuff. So it's
like Red Hammer. I'm working on my first half of season 1 review, just because like breaking it down episode by episode. When I look at my notes, I'm just like, this is actually pathetically sad, because for a lot of my notes on different episodes were eerily similar. It was quite literally like never happened in the book. Didn't happen in the book. Why did they change that? Why has this been altered? This is incredibly disrespectful. Why are the Red Jaw doing this? Like, it's just, and then there was stuff, like, I can't get into it because I'll just give away my review, but like there was stuff where I was like, this is so out of character for this character that I'm actually angry, like, at how out of character it is. Like, everything else aside from the sheer bastardization, I was actually angry. I mean, the biggest note is obviously what they did to the magic system. And I was ready to just lose my I was gonna write a strongly worded letter. I was so mad. I couldn't believe what they did to the magic system.
Well, this has happened before, and the Game of Thrones show, when they completely deviated from the books in season 5, I pointed it out. Hey, this is going to have ripple effects, because changes have ripple effects. If you kill off this character, then all this can't happen, and that other character won't have this and that development. And I was warning people, hey, this isn't going to end well. And guess what happened? I got my head chewed off. And then, season 8 happened, and everyone was pissed off. And I was like, I warned you. This was where it was headed. Tried to explain it to people, but and it also happened the same way with The Witcher.
Oh God, yeah.
Always think, ripple effects. If they alter, if this character over there is changed into a lesbian or something, then that other love story they're supposed to have isn't going to happen, because that's with a male. Which will, it's like dominoes. You need to be very careful with changes.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's the thing that kills me about Witcher is they were in such a rush to get to Ciri's story that they, and honestly, I mean, we know the producer or the director, whoever it was, has like a giant crush on Yennefer. But so much about Geralt just got stripped away. Like, genuinely, and I don't know if this is because it was Henry Cavill and people just assumed, he is literally their favorite bait and switch, because I remember Enola Holmes was made to look like he was involved in it much more than he actually was. I think he got a total of like 7 minutes of screen time in that movie. But they not advertised, but what's the word?
Hyped. Maybe.
Hyped, advertised, like they sold, basically Netflix sold the show of Enola Holmes on Henry Cavill's back, essentially. And it was the same thing with The Witcher. It was the male character, like the titular character is going to be Henry Cavill, is going to be portrayed by Henry Cavill. People showed up for Henry Cavill, and then he wasn't there. The episode, I have to double check, but there is literally in this last season when Ciri is wandering through the desert. I can't remember if that's 5 or 6, whatever episode it is that whatever episode that was, he is in that episode for 2 minutes, and that is for like, and that's it. And it's mostly flashbacks. It's mostly like Ciri having hallucinations and flashbacks. That's it. Here, there's nothing. There's no actual him. And the Wheel of Time is doing the same thing with the story, but they're also doing it with the characters, because just like Jordan had over 6,000 pages of notes to pass on to whomever would pick up his story for him, he was, as Teresa has said, he was dictating to his wife on his deathbed, Like, that's how much he cared about this. That's how much passion he had. He also had ideas for who would portray his characters. And for me, about 98% of it, they missed the mark, quite frankly. But we do have a list. Shall we dig into the list, guys?
Nope.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, first and foremost, we'll go with our main character, who should be our main character, Rand.
Well,
And
this is the list Robert Jordan made.
yes, this is the list Robert Jordan made of who he envisioned if this was ever to be portrayed in a live action series or film or trilogy or however it would be put on screen, whether it be the small screen or the silver screen. This is who he envisioned each of the characters to be. We're not going to go through every single one that he listed, but we're going to go through a good chunk of them.
He was actually quite thorough.
He was very thorough. He was very specific in what he saw for his characters, which makes sense because he cared so much about this story. Whew. All right, here we go. So Rand, he envisioned a young Ben Affleck for Rand. And so this is a young Ben Affleck, very not at all wispy. Like, this is not a boy that, I mean, because Rand is a farm boy. Like, he's not supposed to be a stick. He's wiry at the very least, right? Because he's doing chores, he's walking, he's outside. So it would make sense that he would have some wiry muscle going on. And this is who they cast.
Oh, yeah. Oh, dear.
He looks like a boy band member.
I have many things to say, but young Ben Affleck is not one of them.
No.
And honestly, his hair for me is not red enough. But I mean, at least they kept the red hair. At least they didn't ginger side him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Thank God for small miracles. But he's also, like, Ben Affleck, like, he's supposed to be really tall. And Rand doesn't really stand head and shoulders over anyone in this series at all. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, when I first saw it, I did a video about my reaction of the stills. I thought it was, it was like Anakin Skywalker before he hit the gym. You know what I mean? Because he has that kind of Hayden Christensen look.
I could see it, yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? The emo boy, especially in Attack of the Clones, just the hair and all that. But again, I'm not trying to compare him to Hayden Christensen because he was really good. But you know what I mean? Maybe his younger brother who didn't get to be a Jedi and sat around and drank beer all day and never ate any.
This is young Owen, his half brother, young Owen.
No, no. Owen was a farmer though. He would have been stronger.
Oh yeah, Owen would have been strong, but I just,
no.
I'm sorry, guys. This is, on a scale of 1 to 10 on hitting the mark. This is a 2 for me, and I'm only giving it a 2 because they kept the red hair.
You know what?
It's not red enough. Huh?
Sometimes you'll see some kind of trending YouTuber thing.
Yeah.
That has been canceled for some kind of, grope to fan or something.
Yeah.
It looks like one of those.
Like a creeper, basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like it reminds me, but I think boy band is a very good one too.
Yeah, that's a pretty. This is very reminiscent of 2000, and I love my boy bands, but it's. I'm just saying, like, I don't want the ramen curled look.
Mm-mm.
Not that there's anything wrong with it per se, but like, I don't know. I feel it looks like if he got hit in the jaw. I don't say Steve. I'm gonna cut that out.
Well,
I mean, technically, no, I can't say that because it'll ruin it for Teresa.
no, that's okay.
He does technically wipe out quite a few individuals.
Well, I remember at the end of the first book,
I'm just saying.
Yeah, of course
he does. It's definitely high volume body count. There we go.
Yeah.
But so Teresa, on a scale of 1 to 10, how well do you think they nailed Rand's casting?
Well, on a scale of 1 to 10,
1 being not at all and 10 being bang on.
Okay, well, if we're trying to compare him to Ben Affleck, of course not. But when I saw all the cast together, he actually was relatively tolerable.
Yes. So, but we're not comparing it to everybody else in the cast.
Okay, so if I pretend I don't,
just to Jordan's vision. On a scale
if we're comparing it to Jordan's vision, it's a 5 because he's half the man.
Fair.
Yeah, give him the other half of his body, he might look better.
Oh my gosh. Brilliant says, if I wrote such an effeminate male character, all 10 of my fans would leave me immediately. I'm trying to see what else. Backstreet. Yep. Yes, definite Backstreet vibes for sure. There it is. And Perrin is thick, but yeah, Perrin's a blacksmith. He's supposed to be thick. That's why I said, like, Rand is like a boxer, wire, like, kind of thing. Matt isn't so much. I wouldn't say Matt is wiry. I'd say he's more lithe. You know what I mean? Because he is, like, he's supposed to have that thief's body. He's more lithe as opposed to wiry. Like, just from when I read the books, that's what I got. But yeah, the thing you always take with you is Perrin has a blacksmith body. Like, he's got, like, a bodybuilder body. But everybody's
like a gentle giant-ish kind of type.
Yeah. And so it's so hard to watch this. All right, Stieg, scale of 1 to 10 being in line with Jordan's vision for casting, 1 being not at all and 10 being on the nose. How does it stack up?
I think Teresa nailed it when she said he was half the man. So, but I'm going to go with a 4 out of 10.
4. Fair. I am sticking with a 2. And it is solely because, like, I mean, really, it looks like if you punch him in the face, he's going to drop for hours. Like, it does. It looks like you will cold clock him if you punch him in the jaw. That's just what it looks like. Maybe not. He might have an iron jaw. Not everybody that looks like they have a glass jaw has a glass jaw. But, like, really, truly, it looks like if you punch him in the jaw, he's going to drop. And, like, you will cold clock him for hours. But, all right. Next
he could
up.
be beaten up by a girl. Unlike others.
Next up, we have Matt. So, Robert Jordan was very specific in his vision for Matt. He described Matt as a James Garner around the age of 21. And it was incredibly hard to find a picture of James Garner at the age of 21 that I could actually show on YouTube without fear of being struck, because you never know anymore. So this is James Garner at like 30. So imagine like 9 years younger than this. Okay.
Yeah,
James Garner had his shirt off a lot. Like, yeah, blonde. James Garner had his shirt off a lot, and as of late, people have been striking channels for the dumbest things, and I don't need to get hit for showing chesticles, okay? But he should have his shirt off a lot because James Garner was very, like, he was not hard on the eyes, ladies and gents. He was very, like, very good. Let me see. I don't know if I can.
Oh
Let
yeah,
me
well, I
see.
love me some James Garner. I mean,
I
James
lo-
Garner is great. He even looked great when he was
Yes.
older. I mean, he really
Yes.
aged well.
He aged very, very well. Very well. There's a here's a picture of him running around without a shirt on, playing soccer or football for you non-American heathens. And he was so hold on, let me see if I can get I'll put James
Yeah,
Garner
it's,
cowboy.
football for you, the people who actually made the sport.
American football is superior in every way.
Ooh, well,
Yep, I
hey,
said
speaking
it.
of apples and oranges, that's all I'm gonna say. Apples and
Let me see. God dang it! Like, well, okay, you can't really see anything. Okay, so this was supposed to be. No, that's still. I am super paranoid about this. But I'm gonna show it anyway. So there.
Oh,
That was Matt. See, you can't see anything. Like his chesticles are covered. Nobody can get mad at me.
no,
Um,
that's fine. That's fine. That's
But
wow.
yeah, so this
Look at
was
those muscles.
right. Like he had his shirt off a lot. Here we go. This is him in a cowboy hat. This is also like, so this is the look we were going for Matt. A young James Garner, blonde, like very. Like, I'm sorry, that's an attractive man. I'm not sorry actually at all. Not sorry at all. And this is who we got. We have a thing for curly hair. Like the casting director or the costume department, whoever it is, they really want curly hair.
Matt doesn't even have a beard.
I know. I know. He's supposed to be clean shaven and blonde. And we've got this is more in sync vibes than
He looks like
Backstreet.
you know, kind of like a far left journalist.
I
does,
mean,
though.
kind of.
Whenever you see cringe articles and there's a picture of the guy who wrote it, sitting there, you know, and they always hold up a coffee cup, right?
Okay. Now, yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. I thought he had brown hair.
Oh, it's light brown, isn't it?
It's blonde. I like when I hear light brown because like I have brunettes in my family, and so when it says light brown, like I always think sandy blonde.
Oh, okay, that's fair.
But
he is blonde on the book covers.
Yeah, he is.
Okay, I mean, like I said, correct me if I'm wrong. You all have read them much more than I have.
And Perrin actually does look like what Jordan wanted for him on the book covers.
Yes, he does. I'm just like every time I look at him, I don't see like the amount of depth that Matt is supposed to have. You know what I mean? Like the mischievous good like now granted, it's not always good nature mischief later on, but like especially this early, he's not supposed to be some sadistic evil tortured soul.
No.
He's literally just a mischievous kid.
Yeah, the guy's a prankster.
Yeah. And it's
probably put poop in the snowballs.
I
don't know about that.
Well, maybe it's just me because I know I'm not seeing the full thing. Doesn't it look like he's wearing a bathrobe? I mean, the costumes in some of these things just look really. It looks like, you know, the clothes that like my grandma and grandpa still had in their closet after 50 years, even though they hadn't worn them. You know,
looks like someone did some
like
very basic cosplay for their D&D night.
Yeah, it looks like a tattered bathrobe from the 50s.
That's exactly what. Yeah, and even the coloring and cosplay is probably even a better expression.
Oh, the cosplayers do way better than this. Cosplayers do way better than this. And they have 1/1000th of the budget. 1/1000th
I
of
meant
the budget.
LARPers.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, at this point in the story, he's just supposed to like when you look in his eyes, you can see that he has some kind of like prank going through his head, or there's some kind of mischievous idea, right? He doesn't mean it in a bad way. He doesn't mean it he's not trying to harm anybody. Like he's just trying to have some fun because life in the village is boring.
It's a brat having fun.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And stuff
Exactly.
gets real fast.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, how do we think he did with the cast? How do we think Amazon did with Jordan's casting vision? 1 being not at all, and 10 being on the nose.
This one's trickier.
I personally, I would give him a 4. But Steeg, what do you think?
A 2. Matt is might be my favorite character.
Fair.
His chapters tend to be the more fun ones, don't they? Especially in the later books, because there's a lot of the mysteries are tied to Matt. But,
well, I gave him a 4 just
the
because
beard alone.
Yeah, no, that's true. I'll have to downgrade him to a 3. I will say, out of everybody in the series in season 1, like when he, even though it's completely wrong and everything about it is awful, when he does grab the dagger, he did portray that pretty well. I'm gonna give him that. That is how that's how I envisioned it happening. Almost exactly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, he looks like he can play the darker side of things, but
the lighter side he really can't.
Yeah, he doesn't look.
No balance.
No, I mean, he's definitely. I mean, I'm around the same territory as both you and Steeg on that one.
So about 2 or 3.
2 or 3-ish. Yeah. Well, sometimes it's a little bit hard because there is an aspect.
Bush agrees with Stig.
There is an aspect of casting that seeing it live can mitigate some things. But if we're just talking like looking straight at a still.
Yeah. True.
I always say, for example, if we were to look at my Faramir, versus how he's described in the book, just looking at a still, it's like, well, no, that's not how he is at all. He's supposed to have black hair and really, and same thing with Boromir. But you look at their performances and you're like, who cares? So that's what I mean about there's some aspect of it.
Yeah. But as far as casting go, well, and honestly, like he is no James Garner. Like James Garner can act. Like he can actually perform.
Oh,
and he has balance. There's really no you're very right when you like he can go very dark, but the lighter side is not really something he can pull off.
Yeah.
So there's that aspect to it as well. Okay, so he averages a 2. And what did Rand average? You guys said 5 and I said 2, so that averages him at like a 3.7.
I said 4.
You said 4?
Yeah,
so I said 5, you said 4, I said 2, so that averages them at about a 3.65. Not great so far, Amazon. Just saying, you're averaging below 5. So, just throwing that out there. All right, next on our list, can we guess who the next one's probably going to be?
Egwene? No, Perrin.
No. Perrin, yes, Perrin. So, Perrin was described by Robert Jordan as a young, dashing, athletic Val Kilmer. So something like that.
Ooh, nice.
Something similar to that. This is Val Kilmer from Willow, by the way, the film.
Another IP they've destroyed.
Yeah, another. I didn't watch that show, and I never will, and I love the film. And I actually just made a tweet about one of the strongest female characters ever in any IP, and she doesn't. It's the nursemaid from Willow, because imagine if she had not, like, she knew who she was. She knew who she was defying. She knew who she was going up against. She knew she didn't have any magic. She had no training in arms or stealth or evasion. She literally picked this baby up and ran with this child to protect this child, knowing full well that she was going to have demon hounds hunting her.
Yeah.
And still
she
held
didn't even have a stick or a knife. She had nothing.
She had nothing. She had a basket that she carried the baby in, and she kept that baby alive. And you can see, Alora grows over. So she was on the run with Alora for a very long time, which is incredible. And what they're able to, like, we're talking just the first maybe 6 minutes of the film. That's all the screen time she had. Very limited. Like, I think the only thing she says, to another character, like, she literally just was like, it's when Alora's mom is like, please save my baby, and she's like, I cannot. And Alora's mom's like, they'll kill her. And the nursemaid was like, she took pity on the situation, she took pity on the child. She can't help the mother, she can help the baby. She literally, like, how terrifying must it have been to be holding the basket with Alora Dannon in it, and you watch the queen, who has literally destroyed all of these women and kidnapped all of these pregnant women to hunt this child down, and you're holding this baby in the basket as she walks past you. And then you have to go on the run for the rest of your life. And then when you get found and you know there's no escape, she sends Alora down the river, and she literally picks up a stick to try and fight these beasts to the death. And they literally tore her apart.
And then the Willow show happens, and it's like, she should have just left the baby.
Boosh McFadden, I am not messing this up. I am telling you, this is what Robert Jordan said he envisioned for all of his characters.
Yeah.
It's
promised. On a panel from Charleston.
There's a YouTube video of it. I'm not sharing it because YouTube has been very fickle lately and hitting people for stupid stuff. But you can go check it out. Robert Jordan answered this question. This was a question that was lobbied to him. And this is how he answered. So Rand he saw as a young Ben Affleck. Matt he saw as a young James Garner. And Perrin he saw as a young Val Kilmer.
I could actually see, I agree with Bush. I could actually see a young Val Kilmer play Matt.
Well. I could too, but I'm just saying this is what Robert Jordan said. This is from the horse's mouth. So there is that. But to get back to Willow is still one of my favorite films ever. And the nursemaid, like, when people are giving examples of like strong female characters from the past, I'm not knocking Ridley or Xena or God, my mind just went blank.
Xena was a bit of a Mary Sue, to be honest.
Hey, you hush. Or even like the Pink and Yellow. Like, I'm not knocking any of the female characters that get brought up, but really truly, she, like, the nursemaid from Willow does not get enough credit, because without her, the rest of the show wouldn't happen. Like, if she hadn't agreed to smuggle Alora out of the dungeon and away from the evil castle, and then went on the run for months, if not a full year, like, that baby looks about 18 months, like, it went from newborn to about 18 months old, I would say, maybe a little younger, but I mean, she had that baby a long time.
The nursemaid from Willow serves more of a point to the story than Rose Tico did.
For 100%.
Think about that.
Well,
but it's
sorry.
So no, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, I'm curious what the Wheel of Time views him as, or I don't quite recall.
For
the TV show. Yeah, Val Kilmer, like, versus the TV show.
So this is Perrin.
Oh, okay.
This is what the sea folk look like.
Yeah, that's
there's sea folk dead center in the mainland of the continent in the show, where there's no ships or ocean whatsoever.
If I was gonna give anybody a -1, it would be Perrin's casting. Like, even if you go off of, you think James Garner would be a better description for Perrin, and I'm just telling you what Robert Jordan said. like, even if you said James Garner, this is still a miss. This is a massive miss.
Oh, it's not just that. It's flat out lore breaking.
Yep. 100%. Not only did they give him a wife, like,
Why?
okay,
Okay, before we started, it's like, what?
This would be having, I don't know, Pippin in the Lord of the Rings look like an Easterling.
Yeah, that would be about the equivalent.
Yeah.
Well, you know that's what they would do if they were to make it nowadays. Yeah, it's like there must have been a lot of stepping out and with some travelers or something going on.
Because... Yeah, exactly. Like, this town is supposed to have been cut off from everybody else because it's hard to get to. It's hard to act. Like, this is described in the books. They never worry about getting invaded or being ransacked or being raided or pillaged or plundered because it's so hard to get here. Like, you'd have to be crazy to go through the forest. The pass is only open for a certain amount of time during the year, and they're cut off. Like, they're literally in a bowl, basically. They're in a bowl.
They're also so cut off that they don't even know that they're in the country.
Yeah, they have no idea.
They don't know that it's part of the country named Andor.
They have zero clue, and everybody looks like everyone else, which is why Rand is supposed to be such a big deal, because he's taller than everybody and he's got bright red hair. Like, bright red. He sticks out like a sore thumb. And
like, you look like an Aielman, and then they have like the Aielman are actually half black in the show.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, not really. Perrin looks like one.
According to the show, yeah. If you follow the show's logic. But
actually, almost all of them except Matt and Rand look like Aiel people, according to the show.
According to the show. And, like, the crazy part about this is they would be so, like, this town is homogenous to, like, they all look alike, but when you get to the show, it's one of the, like, it's an incredibly diverse looking town. Like, you have people who don't look at all like each other. You'd never guess that they came from the same village, ever.
They look like metropolitan New York.
Yes, which is exactly what the casting director said he wanted. He wanted a New York City 2040. That is what he envisioned. And that's what he wanted this show to look like. The problem with that is you can't tell where anybody's from. There are, like, they've trashed the accents. They've trashed the actual aesthetic of, like, culturalism. Like, you should be able to tell, oh, you're Two Rivers. Like, you know what I mean? Like, in the book, it's very easy to tell who comes from where. Don't get me started on what they did to the White Cloaks. I hate what they've done to the White Cloaks. But it should be very obvious that all of these people are from this place, and Rand is different. Like, even the people who have lived there and known Rand his whole life, they're different. Like, they know he's different. And so the assumption always was that his mother was an outsider who died.
Yeah.
Not entirely
you can tell he's adopted.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But
now you can't in the show.
Yeah, no, you'd never, like, you'd never know. There's
yeah, it's so frustrating and unnecessary, because you can have diversity, because we all know they have to do it. You can do it in world.
Yeah.
It's like what they did with House of the Dragon. You know, they decided, okay, these people, they're all going to look this one way. So even though it was described perhaps differently in the source material, that you can still do that and make it make sense within the world. Because once you start to ignore world building, it takes you out of it, and it doesn't make it a believable world in which you are living.
Well,
especially when it's like, when they're like, oh, you must be Two Rivers folk. We can tell by the way you talk. Everybody sounds the same. What are you talking about? We can tell by the way you talk. Like, It's that, like, that's the switch they made in the show. I'm going to clarify. That's the switch they made in the show, because like literally it says you don't look like you're from around here, but in fact they do look like they're from around there, because they looks just like it looks like everything else, because this is when they have to go to the tower. But it's like, you don't look like you're from around here, and it's like, well, how do you know that? And it's like, you don't sound like you're from around here either. Not only is everybody so diverse that nobody is diverse, and so you can't tell where anybody geographically comes from, you can't hear it either. I'm telling you right now, North Dakota has a population of less than 1 million people. There's like 600,000 people in the entire state. I promise you can tell East Dakota from West Dakota. Like, the east side of North Dakota sounds very different from the west side of North Dakota. It's entire, and like higher up north, like up by the Turtle Mountains and stuff, they sound different than both the Fargo Moorhead area and the freaking Dickinson Beach Minot area. Minot sounds different than Dickinson. Like, it's just insane. There's, in one state with less than 600,000 people, with less than 1 million people, just over 600,000 people, at least last I looked. It may have gone up lately, but I digress. There's still less than 1 million people in that entire state, and you can tell which side of the state they come from.
Well, you can tell easily in Norway as well. We're only 5
That's what I'm
million
saying.
people.
And like, even if you broke it down, if you use the US, like, you can tell somebody who was born and raised in the South versus someone who came from New York. Like, literally, do you guys remember the 90s and early 2000s? It was literally like, if you were from the Bronx, you were from the Bronx. Like, and I'm talking about in Hollywood. Obviously, that type of culture mentality has been there a long time, but a Bronx accent is not a Brooklyn accent, which is not a what is the fancy one? Manhattan accent. Like, the boroughs of New York. We're talking an island that is less than 2 miles across. Of the boroughs of New York have different accents. You can tell if someone comes out of the Bronx or comes out of Brooklyn or comes out of Manhattan or comes out of Hell's Kitchen. You can tell, but you can't tell in this show.
Which is ironic, given that he was basing it on New York. And he can't do the voices.
Obviously, well, they're not exactly anthropologists or
no, but it takes 3
IQs.
seconds. It takes 3 seconds for you to be like, hey, like, because if you ever listen to somebody who have you guys ever seen that the interview with Margot Robbie when she was doing the Wolf of Wall Street character, and her dialect coach was literally like, okay, do this with your hands, and she like pointed her hands down, and she's like, pretend like you've just got your acrylic nails done, and start talking. And so she did it, and she just sort of slipped into this accent, because like those stereotypes, they exist for a reason.
Yeah,
they exist for a reason. They are there for a reason. It's not insulting or disrespectful or racist to accurately portray an area or the people that live in it. Especially when, if you had just been patient with your writing, you would have come across all of these other diverse characters. It's just insane. And quite frankly, I am incredibly pissed at how they have written Perrin's character. They treat him like an idiot. Just because you're quiet does not mean you are stupid.
No. Actually, the quiet ones are the smarter ones.
You know you know what really destroyed him? This is a bit of a spoiler, but I think Teresa knows this. Because Perrin is, wolf-like at a point, right?
Oh, yeah.
He's very tied to wolves. Wolves mate for life.
Yep.
Robert Jordan spoke of this. Perrin lost his wife at the beginning of the show.
Yeah,
he was married.
Yep.
So he's not going to have any. Logically, he's not going to have any love interest after that because of the wolf thing.
Yes. You've told me that before, Stegan. I don't think that's really a spoiler. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out. Yeah. But did you say, Lady Gravemaster, that he killed his wife?
Yeah, Perrin's the one that killed her.
Okay.
In the show. What is that? Yeah, his pregnant wife. We're like, that's the first 13 minutes of the episode, I think. Isn't it, Stieg? It's like right there at the very beginning.
I've just seen clips.
Yeah, it's like the first. It's within the first 20 minutes of the first episode. Yep, kills his pregnant wife.
Wow.
Boosh says, I brought that up before. He's far from stupid. He's patient and quiet. He thinks before he speaks, and his speech is powerful. Yes. So like when I was reading the books and everything, like what Justice Thomas is who Perrin I think of with Perrin, because he doesn't speak a lot. Justice Thomas doesn't speak very often, but when he does, it holds more weight than probably any other justice in the Supreme Court. So Perrin is supposed to be very similar. He doesn't talk a lot, so when he does speak, everybody listens. And when he does speak, he has thought about what he's going to say.
He's also far more tactical than he's given credit for.
Yes. They just kind of made him a blundering idiot in the show, and that really irritates me. So like I said, if I had to give a -1 to a casting choice, it would be Perrin.
I'd give him a -10 because it's lore breaking all over the place, and you could add the wolf stuff to it as well, where he kills his wife.
Yep.
That Perrin's character is destroyed.
Absolutely.
Right from the get-go.
They've completely undermined him in every possible, like every way you could ever undercut a character. Amazon has done it to Perrin.
Yeah.
He is nothing. They've made him stupid. They've made him lumbering. They've made him it's like I forget exactly what the interviewer or the interviewee said, but it was like, well, we needed to have more character intrigue for Perrin because he just was like this happy-go-lucky guy, and that's not what we were looking for.
Yeah, so that means they didn't read the books, because there's a hell of a lot of intrigue with Perrin right from the get-go.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And one could argue, who are the real ists out here? The actor of this descent is the one they chose to make stupid.
Yeah.
And the one that they chose to make the wolf. I'm just saying, who are the real ists?
Also, he's very, like, in the show, he's very incapable. Like,
precisely.
He is a, what do they call those? The Manzels in distress. They make him a Manzel several times.
Well,
it's disgusting.
Actually, in the books, if you go by book 1, out of all the 3 boys, Perrin's probably the most competent one in book 1.
Absolutely. And they've made him a bumbling idiot in the show. I mean, Perrin is a lot of readers' favorite character for a reason, and they have gutted him in the show.
Sanderson's favorite character was Perrin, I think.
I believe you're correct. Yes, I'll double check that, but I do believe that's Sanderson's favorite character.
Yeah, so stunning, so brave, so progressive, and they're actually going back to stereotypes from the 40s and 50s.
Absolutely. They're trying. So in psychology, this is like Psych 101. This is basic psychology. This type of mentality is known as distancing, and what it is you choose whatever your focal point is. Okay, think of this kind of like to explain this in nerd terms. Do you guys, for any Harry Potter fans out there?
Oh yeah.
It always said that the Dark Lord would choose, because remember, it could have been Harry or it could have been Neville, whichever one because they both fit the prophecy, but the Dark Lord chose Harry. Okay, so it was the Dark Lord picked his own demise. It's very much similar to when oh gosh, now I can't think. Who gets chucked into the ocean by his grandfather? Is that Perseus? The Greek story? I can't think of it. But
my brain just went
when
everybody Google.
Right?
Yeah, I think it's Perseus.
I'm pretty sure it's Perseus gets thrown into the ocean by with his mother. So To his
Actually, the same thing happens with Daenerys in Game of Thrones. She gets sent out to sea.
There you go. But so Perseus, so his grandfather gets told about his future, that his grandson is going to be the end of him. And so his grandfather takes his infant grandson and his grandson's mother, his daughter, and literally casts them out to sea in a coffin. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, because when he gets older, he learns what happened. And he comes back and kills his grandfather. And so, if the grandfather had never cast out his grandson, the grandson would have never come back to kill him, right? Same thing with the Harry Potter. What it was? Why can't I think of what it's called?
The
Destiny prophecy. Thank you. Like the word left me. Okay. Same thing with the Harry Potter prophecy. If Voldemort had not chosen, if he had simply not chosen Harry or Neville, and he just continued doing what he was doing, then the prophecy never would have been. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? All this stuff, and it just drives me absolutely freaking insane. I completely forgot where my point was going because I went off on a tangent. But like, this type of crap really bothers me, because if it had just been, if you just follow it, you're not gonna have that issue of whether or not, like, oh no, like, is this show gonna fail? Is this IP gonna fail? Well, if it fails, it's because of ists and phobes. And it's like, no, it's because you did the very thing in distance. Like, you picked your focal point. That's what I was saying. In psychology, you picked your point that was going to be your own destruction, and you tried to do everything to avoid it. But because that is your focal point, it's what you're literally going to pivot around. And so it's going to ultimately be the thing of your destruction, because that is your whole focal point. So you trying to avoid it, you come full circle and you hit it yourself. So it's like, okay, we need to avoid, we need to put in all of this diversity so that we avoid stereotypes and white supremacy and all this other, all, like, okay, we're really scared of this stuff. Okay, but in your effort to do so, because you've picked this intersectionalism as your focal point, you've killed your story, because now everything literally revolves around the very thing you were trying to avoid. Everything revolves around that one point that you were trying to avoid making. And so you end up with Perrin being a bumbling idiot.
Yeah. Nope. And
sorry.
It's like it's underneath. It always makes me wonder, how things will come out subconsciously as well. That's what I'm saying. Who really are? But I think if you start to see the world in such a simplistic way, you will inevitably go into that simplistic thinking, that narrow-minded thinking that does lead to truism and ists. So I've been noticing this about a lot of casting choices. So I'm very disappointed, especially from what you all told me about what they did to him in the TV show.
Yeah, it's bad. Like,
I didn't realize because I haven't watched the TV show. But
yeah,
that's
this series, whatever Amazon is doing, is not Wheel of Time. It's some feminist power trip. It's not even a power fantasy, because this is what they're doing in reality. Like, they are actually destroying male characters and virtue and honesty and loyalty and bravery and self-sacrifice. They're destroying all of it so that they can have their woman power. And like I've said this before, if you ask a man, like, what are his, like, if you, like, what's your power fantasy? Like, if, like, when what do you daydream about or whatever? And they'll tell you it's literally standing on a hill with their brothers by their side, looking down over the enemy that they have just annihilated to protect the kingdom behind them. And the other one is that they have this woman who has a beautiful heart, beautiful soul, is loyal and dedicated, who treats them well, and they can just drop all of the hardships at the door and fall into her arms, and just let everything, all that noise, all that din fall away. If you ask most women who identify as feminists what their power fantasy is, honest to God, what they say is that they are on top of a hill holding a crown or a sword, whatever it may be. They've just slayed the wicked king, and everybody is bowing to them while they stand at the top of the hill. It's everybody submits to them. Everybody bows to them. Everybody worships them. Everybody falls to their knees for them. It is all very selfish. It's not that they've just saved the kingdom, or they've saved their love, or their true love, or children, or they've saved a village from an invading force. None of that. It's that all the people fell to their knees and worshiped them after they slayed the wicked king. Because it's always a king that they have to slay. It's never a wicked queen.
You know what's also ironic? They keep, bashing toxic masculinity, and we need strong females, and then they just give the female characters toxic masculine
Male
traits.
characters, yeah.
They're basically making them male, and it's kind of, they tend to lower the value and importance of main characters to prop up the female ones. but it's like the old saying where you don't get taller by making others feel smaller.
Yeah. Your light does not shine brighter. Your light does not shine brighter when you put out other people's candles. Like if you were standing there with a candle, yours does not shine any brighter if you douse everyone else's. It doesn't. It's not more powerful. It's not any brighter. If anything, you've just dimmed more light out of the world and made the world a darker place. That's it. That's all you've accomplished.
And made yourself look like a jerk.
Yeah, that too.
No one likes a jerk.
But so I think Perrin averaged out to a -7. Is that
at
right?
least? Yeah.
So Perrin's casting gets a -7. Amazon, you are failing miserably so far. Let's see how you did with Egwene. So Robert Jordan described Egwene as an 18-year-old Audrey Hepburn.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I saw her in the books too when I was reading.
Yep. Very pretty, but has that sort of sharp beauty to her, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's just that little bit of sharpness there. And very but a very iconic, very gorgeous female, feminine woman who is very strong-minded. So this is who Robert Jordan envisioned, and this is who we got.
Oh.
Another one of the sea folk.
Yeah. Again, this is so far off in casting. Like, Egwene comes from the same town as Rand, Mat, and Perrin. And Rand is supposed to be the standout. Everyone else looks very homogenous. They all look very, very similar. And she looks not like a Two Rivers folk. Like, she could be from anywhere. She doesn't, there's no standout characteristic of the Two Rivers folk in this series.
She actually looks like one of those people who claim to be Tolkien scholars nowadays.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what struck me was her expression here. But to be fair, this could be at a part where she's, they're running and all that stuff. So that's why. But
if I remember right, she's looking at Rand sitting on a log in this scene.
oh, okay, never mind then. I just
mean,
don't know.
they are technically like they're on the run,
Okay.
but I'm pretty sure she's staring. It's either at Rand or Perrin. I can't remember who she's staring at in this scene.
But that coat, that just, no offense to Walmart, that looks like it came off the rack at Walmart.
And it looks nothing like, whoa, hello, Matt. It looks nothing like his outfit. Like, they're from the same
His
town.
bathrobe.
Now, granted, he's much better off. Matt's really wealthy. So if anything, he should be in the fancy coat. But yeah, it looks like it's from Nordstrom Rack or something like that. It's not there's no consistency with the costumes. There's no consistency with the accents, and there's no consistency. Like when the book tells you they're homogenous, there's no consistency in the characters. None of the characters look like they come from the same region.
Given that it's a small town, odds are the same person made her jacket made Matt's.
Yep. But nope. And quite frankly, having seen the series, she doesn't act anything like Egwene is supposed to. Like, not even close.
Well, I'm sure she just sits around and hates every man and beats them up every 5 seconds.
Not exactly. But there is like a love triangle fight between her, Perrin, and Rand.
Oh?
Yeah, that's because of the shippers.
Yep.
Shippers are franchise cancer, as are normies.
Yes, they are. Shippers are awful.
It kills franchises.
But yeah, so there's a love triangle between Rand, Perrin, and Egwene in the show, and you have a whole bunch of people who are trying to ship Rand and Perrin.
A question: why would Perrin be interested in Egwene if he just killed his own fucking wife?
There's a theory that it's not actually Egwene that he is after. It's actually that he is trying to get close to Rand because he's actually in love with Rand.
Whoa!
I'm not even gonna. Shippers are cancer to every series unless it's literally like a romantic drama.
Where it's supposed to be soap operas. They're supposed to have that.
Like shipping should not have as much sway. Like if you have characters that you want to be together, that's be like, oh, I hope those two end up together. That's fine.
Yeah, but when shippers go from franchise to franchise.
Yes, they're like locusts. Just for shipping. And like, but so when you're, I really hope Rand and Egwene end up together, right? And when that shipping takes over and has influence on the actual show, the actual story, you have a problem. You have a serious issue because that isn't how this is supposed to work. Just because the shippers are loud does not mean they make up the majority of your audience. In fact, they are a minute part of your audience. And to give shippers that kind of power is incredible. That's what happened with the freaking Disney Wars. Everybody lost their mind over like they're literally called the Reylos. The Reylos had way too much power, and it jacked up the story left, right, and center.
It started with the Twilight fans, I suspect.
Probably, but
well, there was the whole Team Jacob.
Yes, I remember the T-shirts. I was in high school. I remember the T-shirts.
Being a shipper aficionado, I remember it first really hit the soap operas because the soap operas was where it was really big, and it was also with the X-Files had some of it, but it was okay because it was it was kind of part of the story that the two characters were supposed to be together. But yeah, they didn't realize that the reason it worked so well for Twilight was because it essentially was a soap opera. And same thing with the Vampire Diaries. It's like they're not.
If your show, that's what I'm saying. If your show literally revolves around the relationships, if it's a soap opera-esque show or a soap opera, that then the shipping and the shit, like, that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But to put it into a high fantasy where these are supposed to be kids, they aged everybody up. I still am convinced it's so they could give Perrin a wife. I think that's why they aged everybody up. But they aged everyone up. These are supposed to be kids who have started to notice things about themselves, and they're worried about stuff they don't understand and things that they've been seeing. And remember, this is supposed to be a sheltered village. They don't have any concept of the outside world. So, of course, it's going to be scary to go with this strange lady who showed up and was like, you need to come with me because we're not sure which one of you it is. Also, the other thing that they destroyed, the reason that Egwene comes with them is utterly destroyed, because now it's, oh, you might be the Dragon Reborn in the show. That's not why she went in the book. That has nothing to do with why she went in the book. And so now you have fundamentally altered a key component of her character from the book.
Well, not just her character, her whole story and premise.
Her motivation, yeah. Everything, like her whole arc, because of that one change, because you have destroyed why she left the village and why she went and her motivation for doing so, you've utterly destroyed her entire character arc. I'm so livid over this. They've obliterated everybody. Perrin got done dirty, but Egwene got done horrifically bad too. It, like, oh my god, they don't care. And it's because, well, the Dragon Reborn is important, and the Dragon Reborn is the prophecy, and that's the most key person in the books. And so we have, like, it's not fair that there's not a girl. No, listen. If the only thing that these frickers had ever read was the prologue of Eye of the World, they would understand why nobody would want to be the Dragon Reborn. Why nobody would want that kind of horror on their shoulders. But that's not what they see. All they see is power, and they're power-hungry psychopaths. And they're like, we have to have a girl in there, otherwise it's not fair. It's so disgusting. I hate it so much.
And their only vision of power for a woman is if she has male power, not that women can have a power unto ourselves. The feminine genius. There's no such thing. It's like they have to erase. It's another way to erase women. Turn them all into men. And ruin the story while you're at it.
Like, I hate it so much. For an entire industry that claims to hate everything about men, they sure want women to become them. Holy cow.
Precisely.
Oy vey. But, so, where do we land on Egwene? Casting-wise.
Minus 20.
Negative?
Yeah.
Negative 20. I'm going to give it a negative 10. Where are you at, Teresa?
Well, I'll be fair and make it more of maybe a bit of a negative 1.
Cool. So we've averaged out to a negative 9.8.
Yeah, because it's lore breaking. I mean, you got to keep your world building consistent.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. So I think right now Amazon is averaging like a negative 2 overall for their casting compared to Robert Jordan's vision of what he had in mind. Null set. Yeah, null set. Absolutely.
Yeah, then you also have the Wheel of Time. Well, I'm not even going to call them fans, claiming that the casting was done in what Jordan would have wanted. They literally said that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
We now know damn well that it wasn't that.
That's 100 not at all what he would have envisioned.
But you know what they would have done though? Then they'll come back, I promise you, and say, well, this would have been what he would have wanted if he'd have lived today. That's what they'll say.
They can all kick rocks. Okay, so Nynaeve is next. And he described Nynaeve as a young Jacqueline Bisset. So she's a knockout.
I was gonna say,
she's gorgeous, and it's very apparent that there is this otherworldliness about Nynaeve. She's the town wisdom. There's a whole, her whole background is just really.
She was one of my favorite characters.
She's such a good character in the books. You say Nynaeve?
Yeah, it's Nynaeve in the audiobook.
Nynaeve. I don't listen to the audiobooks. I just say it the way that I read it. So Nynaeve is how I've always said it. I've always said Nynaeve. So Nynaeve. Say it again. Nynaeve. I'm never gonna remember. Nynaeve. Nynaeve. Regardless, she's one of the best characters in the book. Best female character by far. One of the. And it's very intriguing. Like, she, in the books, she radiates feminine energy and feminine power. And she's genuinely worried about these kids who have just gone off. Like, she's worried about them.
It's her job.
It's
her job to worry about the village.
Her whole, like, that's
wisdom.
She's there to care for and about the village. And so, she's supposed to be someone that has this ethereal, otherworldly look about her, has this very strong instinct of nurturing and care and to really be there for everybody. So this is who Jordan envisioned, and this is who they cast.
Yeah.
She looks so smug. She looks so smug in this picture. It also helps that I know what scene this is, but like, that doesn't look like someone who cares about everyone. You know what I mean?
Well,
she looks like
young,
one of those new
she?
college professors that are being, I saw a video yesterday.
The one thing that they really did nail, so in the book, Nynaeve's braid is very much a thing in the book, but they went like overkill with it in the show, in my humble opinion. But once again, we have someone, I'm not sure what's going on with the outfit. I really don't. And it's so hard for me to like watch this because I know just how destructive of the character arcs they are. But like, when Nynaeve goes after them, her motivation in the show is also changed. Like, this doesn't look like someone who genuinely cares for everyone and is semi-suspicious of people she feels might hurt those that she sees as her kin. Right? Am I wrong?
She looks like a gender studies professor that's at the same time are asking for all kinds of reparations.
Well, I'm just...
Well, to me, I mean, don't get me wrong, she just has a young look about her too, like a college student look. I don't even think about her as
she's supposed to be 20. In the books, she's 20.
Oh, okay. Maybe, okay. Whatever. Maybe I felt like she was older because...
Well, like I said, she's supposed to have this... She is supposed to not necessarily look older than 20, but kind of like Moiraine is supposed to have this timeless... Moiraine looks 25, but has like this timeless look in her eyes, like this otherworldly, very depth of knowledge, very powerful look in her eyes. Like, she's supposed to have these deep eyes. Nynaeve is supposed to have something very similar. It's supposed to be, she's very young, but she has this otherworldly state about, there's something ethereal about her, and she's supposed to be super, super young. And in Bush brought it up too in the chat, like, they're constantly talking about how she is too young to be a wisdom.
Yeah.
They bring it up all the time. They do it in the show, but not as much. But yeah, she carries the whole weight of the town on her shoulders, but she is too young to be a wisdom because this is supposed to be someone with years of practice and years of study and is involved with the whole town. But Nynaeve has she's got a knack for it. And so that's why Moiraine is like, maybe there's more to this person than meets the eye, which there is, but it's not that she's the dragon reborn. And
it's like, you get a dragon, you get a dragon.
Yeah. In the show, they very much hint at the fact that maybe she's been, I think it's like, she's been influenced by the dragon is how they phrase it or something like that. It's very stupid. Like, they want to give everybody the dragon reborn because it can't just be one.
That's just, well, and as you said earlier, that's not necessarily a good thing. So why would they want to spread that around?
Because they've never read the books and they don't understand what's actually happening.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that the people who are writing the script for the show, they haven't read the books. They just used the synopsis on the wiki page.
Yeah, they went to Wikipedia or Cliff's Notes and called it a day.
Yeah,
it's pretty much
because
all they did.
You can spot the shallow.
Oh yeah,
the shallow writing. They're just using the basics.
Yep, 100%. They're not going it like some things that are incredibly important are not at all mentioned, and some things that aren't even in the books get all this screen time. And it's truly devastating. I do not want to let this run more than 2 hours today, so we're gonna jump to Moiraine's casting. So this is who Robert Jordan had envisioned for Moiraine, Hedy Lauren, Hedy Lamar. Huh?
That there would be spawn on.
Yeah.
Because this is pretty much how I saw her in the books.
Yep. This is supposed to be Moiraine. And like she very much look like she's very young, but she like her eyes tell this whole other story. Like this is 100% Moiraine, especially when you read the books. And this is who they cast. I have nothing against. Now, I love Rosamund Pike. I especially loved her in Pride and Prejudice. I think she was well cast for that role. I loved her in Die Another, or is it Die Another Day?
Yeah, she does not look ageless though.
No, she doesn't look ageless. She doesn't look timeless, and she doesn't look. She's not gorgeous. Like all of the Aes Sedai are supposed to be beautiful, ageless-looking women, and she doesn't look ageless. She looks like she's
exploit that too, especially the Damani women.
100%. And now Rosamund Pike is a very attractive woman, but she is not an ageless-looking beauty. At least not in this. Like it's so weird because when you watch her, like give interviews about the show, she looks much younger in the interviews than they made her look in the show. And I still cannot for the life of me figure out why.
Yeah, because I was about ready to say they went out of their way to make her look like this, because even though she is getting up there in some years, she's not, she looks fantastic.
She does. She's a gorgeous woman. So I don't understand why the makeup department, like why would they do this to her? Because I've seen, I'll pull one up recently of her. And this was like during the what's it called? Like the rounds, like when they were on the press tour, when they were doing press.
She did a dumbass interview the other day, saying that she had to prepare for a scene where her character was arguing with her sister. She had, read the books and stuff. I'm like, that doesn't even happen in the books.
Yeah.
And Moiraine having heated arguments, she's an Aes Sedai. They're supposed to be serene.
Yeah. The argument, it's very passive, like everything is passive aggressive. Okay, this is a picture. Understand, these pictures, in the picture I'm about to show you, she's older than in the picture here. This is while she was on press for Wheel of Time. So she's at least 4 or 5 months older in the picture I'm about to show you than in this still from the show.
Yeah, there we
She
go.
looks like a completely different person. Like, she's older in this picture by several months than this still right here. And in this still, she very much does not look timeless. She doesn't look ageless. I don't understand why they would do this to her.
I can imagine, since they don't think very critically, they think, well, she's supposed to be like older and wiser, so we have to make her look old because people are too stupid to.
But she's not. She's relatively young in the books too.
Well,
Oh, 80, I think.
yeah, I mean,
but
what I'm saying is, but even so, it's like, oh, if they're supposed to be, as I said, older, definitely older than the other characters and wise, they think, oh, we'll show that by making her old because, we're stupid. That's the only logical thing I can think of, but I guess I'm trying to apply logic to what is illogical.
Well, look at the arguments made by the fans of the show, though. They're not writing for the brightest bunch,
Leandrin is like her. It's because her mouth is pursed, so it's not that she isn't beautiful; it's that her expression is not. And Perrin is pleasantly plump and happy. Like, some people enjoy. Like, I would rather have a happy plump person than a miserable, like, thin person any day of the week. And plump doesn't mean fat; it just means she's got curves. Ain't nothing wrong with curves, but like. This is not doing, and put all of that aside, this is not how Moiraine is described at all. She doesn't look ageless in this photo. She just doesn't. And I think Rosamund Pike is an incredibly beautiful woman, and I don't think she necessarily looks bad here. She just doesn't look like what is described in the books. Definitely nothing like Hedy Lamarr. Like, I'm just saying, this is worlds of difference from this. Worlds of difference.
Well, isn't she also supposed to have ringlets and stuff?
Oh, don't get me started on how bad they screwed up her costuming.
Oh, she's walking around in pants too. She's supposed to.
Yes, she's in pants. It's so painful, guys. Don't watch the show. Please go read the books. It's just. Ugh.
I mean, I didn't mind this casting because when I saw it was Rosamund Pike, and
I didn't mind it either. But then the costume department and the makeup department did not do her any favors. None whatsoever. Like, I don't know, and I don't know who is in the editing room, but by the way, you can tell, like, here, I'm going to zoom in really quick. You can tell, so do you see how, like, because this is a straight shot at her face. When you guys look at pictures, if it's a side profile, one eye is supposed to be bigger than the other. Like, that's supposed to happen. But I'll bring up a picture of her again to show you, like, her eyes are actually incredibly symmetrical, which is one of the reasons why I really liked her for the casting, because Moiraine is supposed to be, like, she's supposed to be small. Like, that was my biggest issue when she got cast as Moiraine, but I was like, well, to be fair, look at what Lord of the Rings did, because when you look at when you look at Lord of the Rings, Gimli looks shorter than everybody else, and he's actually John Rhys Davies was the tallest man on set, but Gimli, the character he portrayed, was a dwarf, and he looked shorter than. He was taller than the hobbits, but he was shorter than Legolas and Aragorn and Gandalf and Boromir and Faramir. Like, he looked like a dwarf. So I was like, well, maybe they'll do some similar. I gave Amazon way too much credit. I was like, maybe they'll do something similar to make her look petite, because she's supposed to be very small. She's a small lady.
She's tiny.
She is itty bitty, and you can see that on the cover of Eye of the World, which she is on. But what they did here, I don't know who photoshopped this or what they did, but like, that, if you look, this eye is like bugging out, and they chiseled in this cheek. Like, they tried to give her a rectangle face is what they tried to do. instead of giving her like apple cheeks and like a more rounded feminine face, they literally tried to give her like, look at this chin and look at Rand's chin. Like the only difference really, like if you put hair here, I'm just saying her jawline rivals Rand's. That's not a feminine trait.
And
that's
just
not
wait
how...
until you see Landfair. Her jaw is broader than her forehead.
But my thing is, like, whatever they did, whomever was in charge of this, like, someone needs to have a talking to, because yes, Rosamund Pike has a square jaw, but not to this extent, like, at all. It's just not a thing. Like, her jaw is not... Here we go. Here's a profile shot. Like, her jaw is not that... Look at how soft her jaw is right here compared to this picture. Like, I don't know what they did in the... And also, it looks like she has a freaking Adam's apple right here. Like, what did they do? I don't understand.
They're doing what Hollywood's doing in general now. They're making the men look more feminine and women more masculine.
But do you see what I mean? Like, she has like an oval face here. It's not quite a circle. It's definitely not a square, though. Here, she has a block, a wood block for a face. Like honestly, truly, this is they've severely altered what she looks like, and not in a good way, and definitely not in line with the character at all. I mean, it drives me insane. I don't understand why they've done this. It confuses me to no degree, to no end. But it is what it is. What do we think of the casting for Moiraine compared to Jordan's vision? I will have a little bit of mercy. I think I'm going to give it a 3. Because I do like Rosamund Pike as an actress. I know she can deliver if she's allowed to. And I do think if the makeup and costume department had done their job, she could have pulled it off.
Yeah, I was going to give it a 4. Compared to the Hedy Lamarr.
Yeah.
Because I can forgive being taller and stuff, because like those are kind of, well, if they knew what they were doing, they could, as you said, film it more correctly. But, you know, if I had to choose between is she too tall or too small versus, you know, some of the other things that they could have done with her, maybe I just looked at that and I said, well, it was merciful.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Steve, what do you think?
A 3.
3.
Good actress, miscast.
Yeah. Or just maybe not even miscast, just mishandled by costume and makeup, honestly. Because I have seen how gorgeous Rosamund Pike is and what she looks like. Like, there's been films where she is just not... I mean, I genuinely think she was perfectly cast in Pride and Prejudice as Jane. I thought it was a perfect casting. Let me see if I can find a picture really quick. Because she's supposed to be this like fair beauty of the Bennets, right? She's supposed to be the most beautiful of the Bennets. And she really did, but she's also very sweet and kind-hearted, and she's not vain in any sense of the word. Her mother is a bit more vain when it comes to Jane, but she's very delicate and sweet and considerate and compassionate. And I think that she could have, knowing what she delivered as Jane, I know what she's capable of. And I don't think she was miscast. I think she was misused, honestly. But
Yeah.
I'm
That's a
actually
good way.
gonna,
I think I might agree with that. But
I'm
having
actually
not
gonna,
seen the show, it's hard for me
yeah,
to
I'm
say.
actually gonna,
Basically low effort by the people around,
yes.
you know.
Yes, so I'm actually, as far as casting goes, I think Robert Jordan would have actually really liked Rosamund Pike, and I think I'm actually gonna bump up to like a 5.5, even a 6 for her casting, because if she had been handled correctly and had the costume and makeup department and whoever the hell is in the editing booth not done what they did. If
Oh, and
they had
she's a
actually,
lesbian. She's a
if they had,
lesbian on the show.
oh yeah, I know. But if they had actually done what they were supposed to do, I think it would have come out much, much better. But so I think that averages out Rosamund Pike to a 4, which is better than pretty much everybody else we've seen. All right, so Lan was described by Robert Jordan as being a craggy, rough Liam Neeson. So something kind of like this, like he's a bit
Kind of
more
like
gruff.
Rob Roy.
Oh.
So this was who Jordan envisioned more or less when it came to Lan, someone who's very like, he does what he does because it has to be done. No one else can do it. He has his own code of ethics that he follows. And, he's very protective, and he's like, when he cares about someone, he cares about them. And so Robert Jordan described Lan as a Liam Neeson in one of his craggier roles, who is a bit more gruff, a little less like, it's not that he's disheveled or unkempt, but he's just very gruff. And this is who we got. I'm gonna just have to, like, honestly though, the sad thing is, out of all the characters, he acts the most like the character from the book. He doesn't look anything like him. But
Yeah, I was
at
about
least
ready to
he
say, yeah,
somewhat acts.
I can see at least he like looks like he can kick someone's ass and looks like he has
He has his own code of ethics. He's got his own, like, he has his own, it's not even that he has his own agenda, but it's basically like, if it comes down to it, he's going to do whatever Moiraine needs. Maybe not necessarily what Moiraine wants, but what she needs, like what is best for her.
Mm-hmm.
He is the closest one. Like, if we're just going off stills, this is a 0. Like, they did not get close to Liam Neeson in a craggier role at all. But as far as in the show acting, he got the closest out of all of them. For sure. Not quite Ra's al Ghul, but pretty close, Robert. For sure. I hate the sword as well.
It's also lore breaking as heck, because he's from the far north. And all the other ones from the far north are white people. So are we to believe there's a tiny little slit of Asian country up there?
Apparently.
How does that even work?
But see, these people also don't care anything about genetics. Like, here is the truth of the matter. If 2 white people have a baby, it's going to be a white baby. Yes, you have mutations in the genes that can happen, but 99.9% of the time, it's going to be a white baby. If you have 2 Far East Asians have a baby, it's going to be a Far East Asian. If you have, like, this is just how DNA and genetics work. You're going to look like your parents. That's because you are literally a combination of their DNA. That is how this works. So to say that there's just some random sect of Far East Asian up in the north doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. And it's insulting to the entire world that Jordan spent pretty much his life building.
I always think in those situations, Mama stepped out.
She had to step out pretty dang far. Just saying, like really far.
Yeah.
And so it's just, I'm just,
Oh, Bush points out that Moiraine is taller than Lan in the show.
What? Oh, yeah, I know she is. I know. I already talked about that. I said I think they could have done to Rosamund Pike what they did to John Rhys Davis and made her look shorter. Okay, I know Lan is. I'm not arguing with you. I agree with that. But what I'm saying is, it's fine that they cast Rosamund Pike, just like when they cast John Rhys Davies for Gimli. That's fine because they used editing and camera angles and lighting to make him appear the size of a dwarf. Have you ever seen John Rhys Davies? He's huge. He's a massive guy. So I was fine. I'm fine with Rosamund Pike as a casting, but the costume, the makeup, and the editing did not do her any favors, and they didn't try to make her look like Moiraine from the books, who is supposed to be petite. And yes, Lan is supposed to be huge. Matt, like he rivals Perrin. Like, that's just, I mean, it's 100% facts. I don't disagree with you at all. Sir Booksage, yes, Moiraine is too tall in the show, and Lan is too short. Yes. Absolutely. I am not disagreeing with either of you. That is 100% my point. They should have used the same tricks. As Peter Jackson did in Lord of the Rings for John Rhys Davies when he played Gimli. Yeah, isn't that what I said? I said that Perrin rivals Lan. Isn't that what I said? Or did I say Lan rivals Perrin? Either way, like, Lan is big. Yes, there's the word. Forced perspective. Thank you, Fantagonist. But that's my point. Amazon wanted to brag about how expensive this show was and that they're spending, like, it came out, it was almost as expensive per episode as Rings of Power. And
which is ironic given that they reused the sets in those shows.
Oh, I know.
I mean, the Shadow Logoth set is basically it's the streets from Numenor.
Yep, pretty much.
They just added some potted plants and stuff.
Yep, 1000%. And so to say that you've spent millions of dollars an episode and you can't even do forced perspective to make it look and feel like the characters are supposed to in the show, it just goes the amount of low effort in both Rings of Power and Wheel of Time, but especially Wheel of Time, is utterly insulting. And they could have made if they had cast him, they could have made him look taller. These things do exist. Practical and special effects do exist. And they didn't use them. They didn't. Honest to God, I have seen better stuff come out of people's basements. Like, I forget, I cannot think of who it is, but he did this special effects thing. It was like out of Star Wars, and I think he was Revan. And he showed how he's in his backyard and he jumps from his trampoline to a rock, but then when he adds the special effects, it legitimately looks like he's up in the clouds, like by Cloud City, and he jumps from this I can't remember what space, like what cruiser or whatever it is he's on, but he jumps from one fighter to the other, and it legit looks like he's jumping from fighter to fighter. And the dude did it in his basement.
Yeah.
And has what, a $300 budget? You're talking, I think when it would average out, Wheel of Time spent $11.7 million per episode. Not season. Per episode.
Yeah.
And you can't give me something better than what a man is able to do on his home computer in his backyard.
But Gadfly Fiction in the chat says Game of Thrones season 1 as a comparison was half that.
Yeah.
And like Game of Thrones or not, they kind of nailed it with the look.
They did. You can tell When you see a clip from Game of Thrones, you know it's from Game of Thrones, 100%.
And they were accurate to the books too, when it came to locations.
Thank God for small mercies, I guess. But yeah, I'm just... Oh, Wheel of Time is one of the greatest tragedies ever put on screen. For real.
Yeah, and that says a lot because we've had a lot of really awful things happening lately.
Yep. I'm just...
Have you seen what Loyal looks like?
No, and I don't want to.
Oh yeah, that one's the worst. It looks like a high school production of Beauty and the Beast.
Good. I'm sure that's an insult to high school productions of Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, but you know what I mean, like something that you get from this costume store for,
like, I don't understand. If it looks like you went to Spirit Halloween for your stuff, and you have 11.7 million an episode to spend, don't talk to me. Don't talk to me. You didn't care. You didn't care.
It's a pattern though, because it happened with remember, the Mandalorian, when they had the Mon Calamari, which are it's Akbar and company, right? They're aquatic. They live under the ocean.
Yep.
One of them was wearing a thick sweater from J.C. Penney's.
Oh, I remember that.
And rubber pants and rubber boots. And I'm like, why? So you don't get wet. The fish guy isn't supposed to get wet.
Yeah, it's just all of it. All of it sucks, ridiculous. And it needs to burn to the ground.
Yep. Well, that's just the way it is. But I did enjoy kind of going through this because obviously this casting could never have happened, but it was whenever an author gives you an idea of what it is that he wants, then that's, at least a guideline.
Oh, and if you talk to these people, guidelines and rules and suggestions were made to be broken. Well, no, what's broken is your production and your utter disdain for the author whose work you claim to represent. Like, here's the thing. If you hate these IPs, if you hate nerddom, if you hate fantasy, leave. Get out. Stop it. This isn't a stepping stone for your career. This is stuff that fans have invested time and money and heart into. That's what this is. And what you're doing is you're taking that escapism, you're taking that IP, and you're stomping on it because you're a petty, shallow bitch. Man or woman, I don't care. I'm so sick of it. If you do not like it, leave. Stop trying to shove everybody else out. Stop trying to destroy everything else about this, about this escapism, about this IP, about this fan base that you obviously loathe, and go somewhere else. You know why you don't go anywhere else? Because the shit you like doesn't make money. Because the shit you like doesn't have a built-in fan base, because it's crap, because it's shallow, heartless, soulless crap, just like you. And you're trying to shove that same shallow patheticness into everything else because you can't stand when someone else's toy is better than yours. So rather than improving what you have, you try and go break their toy. I am sick of it. Get your hands off my stuff. I'm over it.
Yeah.
Well, it's not going to last because they're taking something that by design is supposed to be timeless and dating it to 2023.
100%.
So it's the modern audience stuff that they keep catering to
doesn't exist.
That's going to change. Yep. Inevitably.
It doesn't exist.
The modern audience of 2040 will not be able to identify with anything in this. So,
No.
which makes this show junk food, nothing else. It's supposed to be filling for a few weeks, you know.
Yep. It's like the difference between a 4-course meal and McDonald's.
Yeah.
I mean, that's genuinely what it is.
But McDonald's at least has some intrinsic value. They have very good iced coffees right now.
It's like a McDonald's menu for $1 million.
Gotta find that exception. Oh, all right. So now that I've absolutely lost my ever-loving mind, not even I held back quite a bit, but I am over these fakers and these phonies who are there. They're there for a paycheck. They're not there because they are passionate about the story or that they're passionate. Like, you can tell the costume department is not passionate about costumes. No. Like, you can tell. You can tell the makeup department is not passionate about the makeup. You can tell that the cameramen are not passionate about being cameramen. I'm not even saying that everybody on set has to be a subject matter expert as a whole of Wheel of Time. But by God, if you are in charge of aesthetics, you better be a subject matter expert on the aesthetics of Wheel of Time and know exactly what Robert Jordan was looking for. If you're solely showing up because you're using this as a stepping stone in your career, you are not the person for the job. You are not going to deliver. Get the hell away from my stuff. Get away. Stop touching it. You're going to break it. Get away. And, I don't care if I break it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's just a show. It's just a fantasy show. No, you are tarnishing and destroying a man's life work. He was on his deathbed and still giving notes for this series. He was still passionate to his dying day about the world that he built. This was his escapism from a really shitty reality. If you guys don't know what Robert Jordan went through, it is no wonder that he disappeared into this world. It's freaking awful. That's what escapism is there. Escapism is there to help keep you sane. That's why it's there. That's why it's there. No, you can't live in escapism. No, you can't, because that's how you end up with furries and all, like, the people who take it way too far because they're so desperate to escape reality, they never come back. But you need a place to slip into. You need a place to go away from all of this trash, from all of the darkness and sickness and hatred and vitriol in this world. You need those places. It is a psychologically proven fact that you cannot reside in reality 100% of the time or you'll go fucking insane. So when these assholes show up on set and they don't give a damn about a man's life work, just like Rings of Power doesn't give a shit about Tolkien's life work and passion, you are trashing a man's life. That is got to be one of the most evil things ever. And not only are you trashing these men's life's work that has brought joy and passion and imagination to generations of people all over the world, you're doing it with a fucking smile on your face. You don't think it's a big deal. You laugh. You giggle. It's just a show. It's just a story. It's fantasy. We can make it look like whatever we want. There's no rules with fantasy. Bullshit. It's proof that you have no literary intelligence whatsoever. And you probably can't do basic, here's a 2-paragraph story. Give me the summary of the plot and the main character from 2 fucking paragraphs. You probably couldn't do that. My God. It's just utterly devastating to watch this happen in real life. And it's completely disheartening. And I wish both of these great men were still alive so they could curb stomp Amazon's ass, because they absolutely would. Anybody who says that Jordan or Tolkien would be fine with the adaptations that Amazon has done in their name needs to see themselves out the fucking door and never come back until they've had, I don't know, what's that favorite word they like to use? Re-education?
Diversity training. True diversity training.
How about How about legitimate care and consideration and talent training? How about that?
How about any
Ridiculous.
education?
Any.
Yeah.
Ugh. I'm flabbergasted at the fact that people think that somehow these shows honor the lore or the men who wrote them. I honestly have no idea. I was just as upset when they aged up Prince Caspian so that him and Susan could have this weird love interest. That freaked me out too.
That was ridiculous. I actually didn't mind them aging him up for the sake of the drama, rather the fighting and all that. But yeah, the Susan stuff, that was absurd.
That was like, I was equally as pissed about that. So don't come at me and be like, oh, you're just a bandwagon. No, I was pissed about what they did with Prince Caspian too. Like, this is a problem. When you make these changes, it affects everything.
Yeah.
Everything. And I'm not sorry when I say this. Your very sheltered, disgusting life has no place in my fantasy stories. Listen, I'm writing a fantasy series right now. The main female protagonist is not a reflection of me. I'm not putting myself in the story because I am not an ideal. I am not a paragon. I want to write about someone that inspires me to be a better version of myself in the real world. Through this like, my God, look at what she went, like, look at everything that she was capable of and what like, holy crap, this is a paragon of a woman. I'm not one of those women. I want to be. But if I was to do a self-insert in my own story about me, it'd be a very boring story and nobody would want to read it. Because I am not necessarily anything that anybody should live up to in any way, shape, or form. I don't feel that I have earned that type of respect at all. And I'm certainly not going to burden my character with my own real world issues. That's the other big thing. These characters are not your psychiatrist. Stop unloading your baggage on them and in them so that you can feel better about yourself in the real world. Stop making your insecurities their insecurities. Stop forming that into who they are as a character. Stop it. You're not perfect, and nobody gives a shit about your insecurities at all. Stop shoving real world bullshit into our escapism, because I don't care. I do not care about your daddy issues. I don't care about your mommy issues. I don't. I got my own problems in my real life. I want to read a story where there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and there's heroism and aspirationalism and, and real sacrifice and character growth. That's what I want. Because in the real world, you never get closure. Shit happens and you got to deal with it. You're in charge of your own closure. You don't get to walk up to the people ever, really. Maybe once in a blue moon. You don't get to walk up to the people who you feel did you wrong or who actually did you wrong and get to have this epic monologue about everything they did to you and how you're so much better now and you've moved on. That is not something that happens in reality. That's why people love happy endings. People want happy endings because it is a form of escapism. And when you shove all of the crap that you're currently going through into a story and there's no heroism, there's no sacrifice, there's no aspirationalism, there's no inspiration, there's nothing for anybody to grasp onto that brings even the smallest sliver of hope, all you're doing is depressing everybody else around you. Nobody wants to read that crap. Even when you read dark fantasy, it's less depressing than the shit you're piling out. Have you ever picked up a Conan? Have you ever picked up a Dresden File? They're fantastic. That is what dark fantasy is supposed to be. It's gritty. It's harsh. It's terrifying. And yet somehow you manage to come out the other side with this feeling of emotional development and strength and inspiration to keep going. Not necessarily because you think you're going to be the one that ends it all, but the one that knows that you are helping prevent a more dangerous or a more sadistic end from coming to innocent people. I don't understand why that's a bad thing or when it became a bad thing, but this whole I'm going to shove my 15-year-old self issues into everything needs to die. Like a quick, painful death and never be repeated.
So say we all.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
It's all rooted in narcissism. It's it's me, you know.
Yep. I'm just to sum up, you can go watch Heel versus Babyface's rant, and that pretty much sums up how I feel. It's I'm just I don't know. I know that so much more is attainable, and the fact that we are purposefully putting low effort narcissists in charge of everything.
Yeah, and then you have the sheep cheering for it. I mean,
Yep.
it begs the question: how dumb can a person actually be in order to not be considered a human anymore?
I don't know.
Because you have that Darwin thing, right? With the starts with a fish and then turns into apes, and then you have humans at the end.
Look,
some of these logo fans are kind of like they're behind the humans in terms of intellect easily.
Not literally, figuratively, of course.
But it's just it's not even that. You can like what you want to like, but you have absolutely no right. Now, as a fan, yes, you have some ownership over things of like what it is that you like and what it is you want to see. That's fine. But that means you're a true fan. Your vision should align fairly well with the source material. And when I say source material, I don't mean the altered source material. I mean like what was actually envisioned when it was created and what the story actually means or what the characters actually stand for. Not this new soy stuff that is getting reprinted and repurposed and what they've done to the comic book industry, especially DC. That's not what I'm talking about. But when
check out the new Conan comics. There's a light in the darkness right there.
Yes, and when you are yes, I will definitely do that. Chat, I recommend it as well. But I am honest. I'm being as honest as I possibly can be when I say this is your power as a fan should not override what the creator of that IP has determined to be so. You have your headcanon all you want. We all have headcanon about our IPs. But that doesn't mean you get to bring your headcanon in and obliterate the standing source material.
The sad bit is if you look at the great fantasy series, they've now screwed up, right? You have the Sword of Truth. That's where it started, kind of. And then you have the Shannara one, which was a train wreck. The Witcher is a train wreck. Game of Thrones got destroyed. As a story, people still cheer for it because shock moments. But now you have the Wheel of Time, and they're gonna do the same to Feist's work fairly soon. Because they hired Kiri Hart, who was part of the Lucasfilm story group, one of the people who wanted to destroy Luke Skywalker.
Who wanted more dinosaurs.
She's one of the showrunners for the Rift War, upcoming Rift War show.
It all fell down. It's all gonna fall down. It's
The one hope I have though is they're doing a Mistborn thing, and Sanderson is on board, I think, as one of the writers and producers.
Yeah, well, because I'm sure after Amazon used his name to sell Wheel of Time, they're like, Brandon Sanderson gives his stamp of approval. That isn't true. They gave him a couple of lines, asked him what he thought, and he said that he literally was like, he goes, yeah, this would be able to be adapted to the screen fairly well and fairly easily. And they took that and they made it his approving of the entire show, which is not true. The disingenuousness that is happening is absurd. So I'm sure he was like, no, I need way more power when it comes to this than I had over Wheel of Time.
Sanderson tried to warn us about the Wheel of Time
He
show
did.
To the best of his ability, because he's under an NDA.
Yep.
So he couldn't really rant about it, but
it's very Sanderson and Cavill both, like, you could tell, are trying their best to warn you before it came, because like Cavill literally said, he's like, I am a car along for the ride on this train, and I will do the best to my ability to portray Geralt as accurately as possible. Like, that's almost verbatim what he said. And Sanderson, he literally, like, I forget exactly how he phrased it, but he said that fans of the books are going to have issue with several of the things in the series,
especially Nynaeve.
Yep.
He brought up that, and that they've altered her character completely. So that's probably what he meant.
Yep. And so they did their absolute best to. I think that's why when it comes to his own, like, him being the producer and the director, I have a feeling that's why he did it. I also feel that's why Cavill has demanded to be a producer and assistant director on the Highlander series.
Fantagonist is right. Star Wars is not sci-fi. It is fantasy set in space. George Lucas said that too.
It's a space opera.
It doesn't explain the science. It's just you have wizards and dark knights, and rogues, swashbucklers, princesses. So it's
But I have a feeling like we're probably going to see a lot. Like, even Ben Affleck he said that it's going to be after what he went through as Batman with Snyder. Like, he said it's going to be very hard for him, unless he knows the director well, like it's someone he's worked with in the past or something like that. It's going to be very hard for him to work on anyone else's shows, because he tends to, and Affleck is a very talented director, guys. I don't even think you guys realize how good he is. He's done a crap ton of stuff that is just mind-blowing. He does not get his dues as a director. But he has said, like, he clashes too much with other directors on set because they have very different visions. And he tends to do projects he's passionate about. He was told by George Clooney, whom he said he respects as an actor. He was told by both George Clooney and Val Kilmer not to do Batman. That's what he was told. And he did it anyway, because turns out Ben Affleck is a huge comic book fan, especially Batman, which is probably why he's one of the best portrayals of Bruce Wayne and Batman, like a far better balance than anybody else. Because he's
I also
been a
think he
fan
wanted
for decades.
to redeem himself for Daredevil.
I honestly liked his Daredevil, but
I didn't think it was terrible, especially if you watched the director's cut.
Yeah, I didn't think it was bad at all.
Though.
Yeah, I know it did. And I think it gets more critical hate than it does fan hate, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, probably.
But he did such a good job. And, so when you listen to these men who are like, yeah, I'm done with this. Then I would take their warnings to heart, for sure. Because they're not dumb. They've been in this industry a long time. They see where it's headed. Like, you can't tell me that Cavill doesn't know he's used as for a catfish, essentially. That's what he was for Enola Holmes. It was 100% a catfish. It was, Henry Cavill as Sherlock Holmes in Enola Holmes is going to help his younger sister, that doesn't exist, by the way, solve the mystery and find their mother and do all these things. And again, he was in it for like 7 minutes. As Geralt, he was all but cut out of the show. I mean, it's becoming a pattern. And I'm sure he recognizes that. So it's just, it's a, what is it? It's a situation where people, not just fans, have to vote with their wallet and their feet, but also people in Hollywood have to be willing to say no and to start doing things to change it. But bye Boosh. We're about to wrap up anyway. So Teresa, any final thoughts on the casting or on Wheel of Time in general? What are you thinking of the book so far?
Oh, loving them. I'm in the middle of the Great Hunt right now. Just absolutely fantastic, and it's really just been fun from the very beginning. I had read the first one like 25 years ago or whatever, and I totally forgot it. So it was like reading it for the first time. And of course, Great Hunt, I'm in total new territory. And just when you think that you know what's going to be happening or something, he just leads you along, and I love his world building. You really do escape into another world. I have not
100%.
watched any of the show. I was planning on it actually, but I've been warned that they put so much material from like later books in the
Yeah,
first
they do.
season, and so I'm just like, okay, well, I don't want to do that yet, so we'll see.
Yep. Steeg, any final thoughts?
It's shit.
That's a good final thought. So Teresa, where can people find you? What are you up to?
Well,
They
you
want
can
to see you more.
you can find me here on YouTube, Miss Smart Muses, where I talk about what makes me laugh, makes me cry, makes me happy, makes me sad, or just really ticks me off. I have some things being put together, some videos, some reviews of some of the horror movies and comedies I've been watching. Also, Pub Crawl once a week usually, where I have interviews with various people across the YouTube zone and with the topic of their choice. Also, and Catholic Explaining Sundays, We the People, where I go through documents of the United States on Wednesdays. Hopefully, maybe some Teresa Travel Tuesdays and random musings now and then.
So much. So people, if you've not already, please go check out Miss Martin's channel. Miss Teresa, she is wonderful. She's very knowledgeable. She's very sweet. And she's just, I love having her. So thanks for coming.
Oh, well, thanks for having me on.
Of course. All right, Steeg, I know you don't like to be found, but where can they find you?
Well, next week on Wednesday, I'm going to do one of my monthly streams with Mara, Jade Shadow on YouTube, where we're going to do it's our top 10. And the top 10 for this month is our personal favorite comic book characters.
Ooh.
So that's going to be fun. It was an easier top 10 to make than I thought it would be. So
yeah.
It took me 5 minutes.
Oh, dang.
And then we're doing what's it called? The good, the fun, the weird, I think it's called, where we talk about weird and funny news rather than stuff that annoys us. Basically fun stuff and
Nice.
good stuff. That's the week after. So that's it.
Very
I
cool.
really don't do YouTube much anymore at all.
I know.
I'm on with Tommy sometimes. Tommy and the Guinea Pig Collective, where they're going old school. I think that's what the show is called. We're just talking about old fun stuff.
Good times. Good times. Well, thank you both for coming today. This was a very interesting and somewhat fun, but also I think I lost my cool a bit. Chit chat, but chat, thank you so much for stopping by. Appreciate every single one of you. Thank you to those who dropped a member chat. Means the world. I didn't see anything on the donation side, so we are all set there. And I hope that all of you have a fantastic rest of your day or evening, depending on where you're at. So without further ado, God bless, Godspeed, and I'll talk to you later.